Hey there, welcome. Today, we are going to talk about how to experience oneness. We're going to go down that rabbit hole, look at oneness from a bunch of different angles, and really figure out what it is and how you can return to it. So let's get started. All right, welcome back. My name is Gavin Weber. This is episode number 2 of the Onement podcast, right? So this is a oneness movement. If you did not watch video number 1, I would love, or podcast number 1, I would love for you to go back and watch it. Like I explained there, you might be listening to this through a podcast service, or you're watching this, listening to it on YouTube. I have it in both places. And these are really designed to more listen to. There's not really anything real alluring with the form and the graphics, the video part of it. But if you like it this way, wonderful. And I'm so excited you all are here. I started the Onement a few weeks ago. It's a oneness movement. So it seemed logical, rational to actually have the second podcast to really dive into oneness. Now, how I do this is I used to script videos. I used to script things because I was nervous to try to, on the spot, explain myself, go into the details I want, be as articulate and precise as I would intend. And I felt like it was rehearsed, boring. So I have kind of been challenged to have an idea of what is going to, come through and be discussed, but not to have it all rehearsed. So usually what I do is I come up with either some topics or some questions, helps me stay on track, but then also I then just come from my heart, from my mind, and what feels needed to be said is probably the best way to express it. Also, on my first video, I'm really working on following guidance. I'm doing this podcast because I feel inspired to do that by spirit. And a lot of these topics, a lot of things I discuss, I feel like it's something we're doing together. Like you, the person who's listening or watching this, spirit, what I call Gavin, the body and Gavin, all as oneness. So I have quite a few different things that I want to discuss today. We're going to, talk about what oneness is. We're going to talk about, what it looks like to move towards oneness and, how to ultimately experience oneness. Now, the first thing that I want to, tackle on this subject is that, like in the first video I recommended, I was like, I almost used the definition of oneness, and words are very limiting, right? So we use words to communicate. We use words to share ideas, share thoughts. Yet what's limiting about words is we usually have some kind of connotation or meaning from the past that we come to the situation with, to that definition with, that we think is true, and because of our experiences of the past. And I would, recommend looking at that, challenging that what we think we know, we don't necessarily know. And that's part of the problem. That's what's, kind of creating the experience of not oneness. And so when you listen to this podcast, I recommend, trying to clear your mind and just be accepting of this new information as if it was from scratch. And I know that's difficult to do. I know you come to this with all kinds of books you've read, teaching, things you've done, but looking for an open mind to actually provide room, create space for change. Okay, so oneness is it's not something that like you could like go do, okay? It's something that you are. And in this form of what feels like a body, like, I've been labeled as Gavin Weber, father, husband, friend, golfer, podcaster, YouTuber, whatever, the list goes on, that we look at ourselves as these labels within this physical body. And that's rather limiting. And it's causing so much of the anguish, the lack, the disconnection, sadness at times, all those kind of things. And what oneness is we are already oneness. It's not something that we have to do or we have to like figure out. We are oneness right now. We're eternal. We're love. We're connected with God. All is well. Now, as I'm saying that, I'm sure you're like, whoa, Gavin. I don't feel one. I feel like I'm in this body. I can pitch myself. I can feel that. And I, love the idea of that. And I've read that in books, but like, I don't get that. I don't understand that I'm oneness, that all is well. It sure as heck doesn't feel like it in this world. And that's why, we're having this video. And a way I was thinking about like to describe this when I was meditating this morning is today's the Super Bowl this afternoon. And Tom Brady's going for his 7th Super Bowl. And just even saying the word Tom Brady, people love or hate of it. That's pretty funny. But imagine if he wins. And I want you to like this gets out of anything having to do with like the body, but just imagine the feelings he would have if he won that game. Euphoria, accomplishment, like happiness, joy, these words that have all these connotations, pride, are proud of himself, excitement. You can go on, but like it would be quite the feeling, right? Now, that is a physical form experience. And that's where like this limitation comes in. And it's part of the reason why I'm giving this example. But I want your mind to try to like have the idea of that feeling. And then with oneness, anything that Tom Brady could feel today would be nothing compared to the experience of your oneness. And how I would use words to attempt to describe that would be absolute bliss. No problems, complete acceptance, knowing that everything is perfection, not needing anything because you are everything. You're the source. You're the creator. You could say, I know these words are tough for some people, connected to God, home with God, one with the universe. And as I'm saying this to you, you're probably having thoughts of like, okay, again, that sounds great. But where people get stuck is like, their mind tries to go, well, what's the experience of that? What does that look like? And it's not something that can be like described from the point of view of a body. And that's where a lot of people in the spiritual journey then start getting concerned. That's where I got concerned because the idea that I would have to experience oneness not in a body was like, it seemed like this either or. And I like so many things that come with being in a body. I have preferences of my children and my marriage and my wife and my friends and my life. And it's like something I want to like hold on to. So the mind is like, you could use the word ego, says, hey, wait a second. if I have to, leave this body to experience oneness, I don't want to. Take a quick drink of water in my dreamer. Excuse me. So that's the resistance, is when you kind of go down the rabbit hole, there becomes like this, I don't know, like hint, this semblance, this, starting to get the idea of like, if you're not a body, then what are you? And do I have to not be in a body to experience oneness? And I don't believe that to be true. Yet, as you're in a body, if you think you are a body and you think that's what you are, you're going to be living in a world of limitation, of problems, of physicality, of form. And all those things are not oneness. All those things are separation. We feel separate from other people. And ultimately, we know deep down, and why you're watching this video and listening to this podcast, is we feel separated from ourselves, from our truth, from God. And if we did not feel separate, that we saw ourselves connected with God, we saw everybody else as connected with God, and we didn't see anybody else or this world as separate from ourselves, then we can begin to experience the idea of oneness. Now, I've read many books that shared that concept. I, for years, was like, oh, that's so good. And I would like read that and like the vibration and like the remembrance. It was like, I would relax and feel peace into that, like that truth. And then, 10 seconds later, I'd walk over somewhere and stub my toe or, have something happen in life and like it would just be gone. Like that idea would be gone. So how a lot of spiritual seekers are like, how can I live from that truth? How can I live from oneness? How can I begin to experience who I really am and be one with the world and with everyone and have no separation? And that's, a term called awakening. I feel like awakening is the process towards enlightenment. And I feel like enlightenment is like another descriptive word of oneness. So I just threw out some words again, and I want to tackle those. So let's look at love. How people look at love is that they love back to like bodies. They love other people. They love their kids. They love their family. They love their friends. They might love themselves. And they love animals. They love their cars. They love their stuff. Yet that's kind of an issue, is what is love? Like we as these human beings think we know what love is, and we do experience aspects of love, like the connection, the acceptance, the understanding, the seeing of truth in other people. And we do that fractionally, fragmentally, partially, okay? We don't do that absolutely, right? So we get a semblance of like aspects of love, but then it becomes like, love as like separation. I feel separated from you as in need, love as a need, like you'll complete me. I need somebody else to feel better about myself. I need you to love me so I can love me, those kind of things. So much of love and how it shows up in this world is conditional. It's if this, then that. And that's not love. And so we're in the process of a planet, and I believe, I'm creating this video, but there's no separation from you or I. We just believe that to a certain level. And that's what we're undoing. We're undoing that belief of separation. We're undoing that we think we're in this body. We're undoing that we're not eternal. We're undoing the idea that we could ever die, right? So when you go back to like, I want to do a comparison, not a comparison, but it's like more of an explanation of love and oneness. When you experience what love really is, absolute unconditional peace, joy, bliss, abundance, everything that you could ever descriptively imagine or describe as wonderful, that would be love. And I feel like oneness then is the experience of absolute love. So back to that original question, how do you do that? How do you, in this body that feels so real, start to experience oneness? And I'm going to be upfront. I'm going to be blunt. You can't continue to do life and to think about yourself and what's happening in this world the same way you have up until now. And everything that you think is happening, the way you think it's happening, is not. It's an illusion. It's a dream. We are, for lack of a better word, people hate this because then they feel like their life is meaningless, and that is absolutely not true. But we're having a dream that we think we're separated from God, from love, from oneness. And for those who want to awaken and to experience their truth in a physical body, they're going down this rabbit hole. And I have done that probably right after college. Is like, do I just go get a job? I work forever. I then retire. I have some kids. I have a good, a good marriage in my case. And then I retire, I play golf, and then I die. Like, that's it. That's what we come in. Like, we're born into this world of ups and downs and this contrast. And it's like, yeah, there's like these amazing things we can experience and like places that we can travel and connections and relationships. And then so much heartache and pain and like being let down and feeling lack and not, seeing what's really possible and having restrictions to health and your body, and then someday you just die. Like that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't feel right. That doesn't make any sense. That sounds cruel. It doesn't sound like a loving God. Like, here you go, born into this world, and then do your best, but don't really worry about it. You're just going to die someday. That's an illusion. We're not ever going to die. We're not this physical form of our body. We're minds. And our minds right now in this physical form think that we're separate. And that's causing the issue. That's causing all this. And yes, in a world of duality, the opposite of oneness, the world of duality, there is going to be contrast. There's going to be what's called ups and downs. Yet they're all neutral. So what I've come across that for me has made the most sense is A Course in Miracles. And we're going to discuss lots of different paths. This isn't the only path. Yet I really feel like after studying this for many years, over a decade, and it doesn't have to take that long for you, and it's always going to be a journey. It's always going to be a remembrance. That's part, you can always go deeper and understand more. Yet the first time I opened up A Course in Miracles, I was like, oh my gosh, like truth. I didn't understand about 80% of it, but I would read stuff and I'm like, oh, it would just slap me in the face. Like, wow, this book, A Course in Miracles, and with the Onement, I'll be talking about it a lot because I think a lot of the world doesn't know about it. And if they do know about it, it's extremely misunderstood and it's considered in some circles like radical, because it challenges everything from a root level, our mind, right? And recognizes that the problem is not out there, it's within our mind and what we think is happening in this world. And it's a mind training. It's like a modern mind training course program. And guess what? There's so much out there that costs so much money. You can get A Course in Miracles on a digital thing probably for like $10. I have this old book that I think used to be my mom's, and I somehow inherited. Now, A Course in Miracles, really quick. There'll be other videos, and there's so much other things. Just go look up, anything David Hofmeister would be my recommendation. Yet, basically, is saying we are miracle creators. We are one with God. We are oneness. And we're having this experience that we're in this body, but literally from our beliefs and what we think we are projecting that onto the world. And our thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, about how this world works, about, our truth is then shown up almost like a hologram, like a movie projector onto our world. And then we're trapped into thinking that's the truth, that we've made that, but we've caused that. That's not necessarily the truth of what's possible for us. So as you go down the rabbit hole of like something like A Course in Miracles, it starts challenging everything you think you see. It challenges, the feeling of disconnection. It has you look at your ego of separation, of difference, of comparison, of good, of bad, of better, of less, of more, all those things, and has you eventually have the experience of you understanding that you're making it up, that it's an illusion. And at first, for me, that was scary. I think, it's like, well, if the world, I think how it operates, there's safety in that. So it's like we play that game, we play those roles, we do what we think is needed to do to then get this. It's, it's like this big, reciprocity game. If this, then that. This is how this works. Hard work, leads to success. All these memes, what it takes to be happy, and ultimately, this can seem scary to people, but A Course in Miracles unravels all of those beliefs, that they are things that we have made up, that have completely made us feel the way we do, of disconnection and depression and sadness, and the idea that we can be harmed or that we can die and that we're not eternal. All those things kind of suck, right? So I want to read a passage to you. It's in chapter 26, okay, in A Course in Miracles. And it's 2 different paragraphs. I would recommend reading the whole thing, but this is just kind of gives you a little bit more insight of some of the things I was just describing with the body. The world you see is based on sacrifice of oneness. It is a picture of complete disunity and total lack of joining. Around each entity is built a wall so seeming solid that it looks as if what is inside can never reach without, and what is out can never reach and join with what is locked away within the wall. Each part must sacrifice the other part to keep itself complete. For if they joined, each one would lose its own identity. And by the separation are their selves maintained. Okay, that's just, what is that? 5 or 6 sentences, 1 paragraph. And it's like, there's a whole book in that. And what this does a masterful job is going through from hundreds and thousands of different angles, the same idea of that our separation from our truth, and how to start noticing that in this world. And then I'll talk about in a little bit, what it teaches to how to handle that. And that's, I feel like, one of the best ways towards your truth back home, towards oneness. One other paragraph I would read: you can lose sight of oneness, but cannot make sacrifice of its reality. Nor can you lose what you would sacrifice, nor keep the Holy Spirit from his task of showing that you had not been lost. And the Holy Spirit, a lot of people get caught up in that, but just like imagine like guidance, an angel, something like that. But hear then the song your brother sings to you, and let the peace recede, and take the rest his witness offers on behalf of peace. But judge him not, for you will hear no song of liberation for yourself, nor see what it is given him to witness to, that you may see it and rejoice with him. Make not his holiness a sacrifice to your belief in sin. Your sacrifice, your innocence with his, and die each time you see in him a sin deserving death. Yet every instance can you be reborn and given life again. Now, I understand that's probably like, if this is the first time you've heard this stuff, that's a little difficult to understand. And basically, in a nutshell, A Course in Miracles is saying when you change your perception about the world you see and what's really happening, then in that moment, you can create miracles. And miracles are a change in perception. And, a lot of times people think miracles are like, I pray for a miracle, like to get this amount of money or to get something that they feel like they need. And A Course in Miracles, it's allowing truth to come through by changing our views of the world, which then creates miracles. Okay. And I'll have other videos on what that looks like. I've actually created some videos. You can go to my website and I'll come at it from a little bit different, angle. But real quick, just imagine having a perceived problem and having the thought that you don't know the answer to that problem, to remembering that problem doesn't really exist except in your mind and your creation, and then letting that problem go and trusting that what will happen is in the highest good for you, for all, and is all part of the process of awakening and having that trust and faith, and then allowing it without any need of it looking a certain way to unfold. And when you do that, when you remember that, when you are able to participate in that activity of thought, you create miracles. And it's a change in perception. And the more you do that, the more proof we have to ourselves, to our own mind, that we are making it all up, that we are love, that we are connected, that there is no out there. And you do this, and you do this, and you do this. And A Course in Miracles teaches you. It has the whole book, and then it has a workbook that's amazing, one activity each day, and it's reteaching your mind a new perspective, a perspective of what's real, of reality, not what we think is happening here, but reality. And you could use the word oneness, the reality of our oneness. And that looks like complete joy, complete love, no fear, not having any problems, not needing to do anything, not having any expectations. Why would you have an expectation if you're already in bliss? Like, you are that. There's no separation from that. You are in that, right? And it's mind. It's mind. So we think in these physical bodies, we're constantly trying to have a physical experience. But all our physical experiences deep down, if we really analyzed it, is searching for an answer based on the lack that we feel about ourselves, that we think then will like satiate that lack and that feeling of disconnection and like forgetting who we really are. And that we think that experience will then solve that issue. Now, experience life, the world, all this, there's nothing wrong with anything. Yet, if you want to have that sustained oneness, there is a path that is not of this world. And again, that's hard for people. So let me check out my notes. Let's talk about a few ways, the first thing that I talked about is A Course in Miracles, right? And I think that's a wonderful guide that literally takes you by the hand and leads you towards your oneness and what that looks like, how to do it. I also feel like meditation is something that is very helpful. And the reason being is because we're so busy doing, we're so busy feeling like there's like these things that we have to do, that we're heavily participating in the illusion when we're doing that, which is then a complete like forgetting of our truth. I feel like meditation brings you back to that truth and starts giving you a semblance, an idea, a partial experience, if you will, of that oneness and that peace. And so the more you meditate, where you experience absolute peace of mind, that you just, come up from it, that you just like, all is well. I feel wonderful. I have no problems. I'm not worried about anything in this moment, because only now is real. And Course in Miracles teaches like basically we live in the past and we make everything on the past. And so based on like past beliefs, we then cause that for our future and do the same thing in a different form and then wonder why we don't ever feel any better. And meditation kind of stops that cycle. A new guy, Joe Dispenza, I think is wonderful. He has a lot of guided meditations. I used to do them. Gosh, I used to do them for years. Don't do them as much anymore, but I recommend. I'll put a link down here for you all. He does a really good job of walking you through, like kind of leaving your body, almost feeling like you're floating, and really having that mind experience of out of this world, not thinking about what you're going to do in 5 minutes, not worrying about what happened last week and the to-do list. Being in the moment right then and there. And the more often you can do that, and that's what meditation does, is kind of trains your mind. Like when you have that, he really goes through it. He has some really good books, but scientifically, changing the molecules and vibration and energy of your body. When you feel that way, it's a remembrance. It's an example of like getting closer to that oneness feeling. And like, this is what you should, this is how you can, I should say, feel all the time if you are awakening, if you're coming from love. And so to get that feeling sometimes starts giving you an idea of what that feels like. And the more often you do that, the more habitual and the more vibration it just becomes naturally to be at peace. So I feel like meditation is extremely helpful to like begin your day, end your day, do out through the day. You could do a minute, 20 minutes, an hour. Yeah, coming back to that peace of mind, to that moment, and like having the experience of like not being weighed down by your body is very helpful on this journey. A practice that you can do in your everyday experience is forgiveness. And this is the how of A Course in Miracles. This is like what it teaches in many different ways. Most people have the definition of forgiveness is somebody else did something wrong, and then I'm forgiving them for that. I'm letting them off the hook. I'm, playing God in some way. Like, I know you did that wrong, but I'm going to take my judgment. I'm going to let my judgment go, and all is well, right? True forgiveness, as taught by A Course in Miracles, is that you forgive people not for anything that your mind sees that they have done, but that you remember the truth in them. And said differently is you understand that what you're seeing wrong in other people is your creation of them, you're, doing that to them. You're causing that of your perception of life. And it's ultimately a reflection of your beliefs about yourself, beliefs about separation, beliefs about how this world operates. And then as you put that out there, that then gets mirrored back to you. And the good news of that for a lot of people is like, wow, yeah, I'm in control of my life. The bad news of that is like, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And it's like, man, it kind of sucks. Like, there's no way I'm causing this shit, stuff to happen in my life. YouTube doesn't like it if I swear, but I don't, I didn't cause this to happen. I didn't cause to lose my job. I didn't cause the pandemic. I didn't all this stuff. And really, it's hard for everyone, I feel like in the beginning, to take responsibility for everything in their life. But then there becomes such peace that it's like, there is a way out. And if we take the responsibility that we're doing this to ourselves, we're creating this world, we're causing this hardship, this pain, then with that understanding and, having the experience of that knowledge on a firsthand basis, we can undo it. We can, like Course would teach, remove the barriers of love's presence. And that's what we're doing, is we're dissolving these illusions. That's what I used to call my website, dissolving the illusion, one by one. So forgiveness actually looks at things that we want to judge and lets go of that judgment. That person who did that awful thing is not that awful thing, did not even do that awful thing. And we instead remember to see the truth in what seems like this separate person and love them. And when we do that, we're reflecting that thought then and that belief back to ourselves and starting to remind ourselves to create miracles, to experience oneness by seeing what we think is out there differently in a new perspective, which then allows us to experience ourselves differently and realize there is no separation. It's right here, right? So that when you start going down the rabbit hole of forgiveness, it gets extreme, would be the way that I could best explain it. Everything. You forgive all the things that you wanted to have happen too, because that's the thing in this world is we're constantly pushing and seeking and trying and manifesting and getting things to go the way we want and we think they need to go, because then we'll think we're happy. And that's an illusion. That's where my journey has begun. There's so many things I thought I wanted: that car, that house, that job, the amount of money, business. And when I would, do those things and hit those goals, it was never enough. And it was like, on to the next thing. And I would like deny what was really going on, saying, oh, it's just an experience. Experiences are good, but I was seeking something that I was never going to find through an avenue of an illusion without ever looking at it through a magnifying glass and then expecting some kind of different result. Once I would finally hit this final goal, then I would be happy, then I would feel whole. And then I would, all would be well. And that's a complete illusion. So when you go through your world, your day, your time, which is an illusion too, and forgive everything, you start experiencing freedom. You start experiencing more abundance. You don't need things to go the way you expect them to go. You allow it all to unfold because you have this trust and faith that you're returning to your truth. And then when you start learning more about your truth and who you are, then you feel a lot more confident and comfortable giving that. Okay. So I'm going to do a quick, check because I just heard something on my camera and I'm like, oh my gosh, did that just go out? Sorry about that. So forgiveness is that the method. It is the way. And the more you forgive everything in your world, the more the meaning you attach to it can be let go, and you can allow the space of truth to come through. And this book, A Course in Miracles, teaches a lot about guidance. I feel like that's why I'm calling forth the spirit within me that is in the process of learning what I'm sharing here today and going through this journey with you, that you have more guidance. And the more that you accept what's within you, you start receiving messages, signs, synchronicities. The Holy Spirit, as described in this, is like for me, like almost this voice and thoughts that come into my head, not when I'm busy, but like especially when I'm meditating. And I work on like saying, hey, take this day. Like, how can I come about this from the experience of complete love, of complete oneness, and that there's nothing that I need from today to go the way that I expect in order to be happy. And as I've done that, like I said, that freedom, that understanding, beginning understanding of what love is, that there's no separateness from you and me. And that, like, we will really love, this is a whole nother video, but we love to use relationships and make them special. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this person. And what's interesting about that is there's nothing wrong with that expression of that truth, but that almost oftentimes we people use love as the perfect excuse to be separate. Because like, since we love these certain people a certain way with all our hearts, but we only designate it for them. And we, everybody else is separate. They're not deserving of our love, and they don't, aren't worthy of the love because we've judged them to be separate from ourselves. And basically we hurt ourselves with that. So forgiveness, seeing everything else as made from ourselves, and like blessing everything, treating everyone we come in contact with as a holy experience, to like be the expression of love, of oneness, of our truth. And regardless of how we think they're showing up, that we don't have to be hurt by their words, by their actions. We can forgive what we think we're seeing and instead allow the Holy Spirit, guidance, the universe, love to heal what's within us that we think that bad thing is in them. So I'll do other videos on that, but I just wanted to, kind of share what really forgiveness is and how I think the best way to get to our truth and to experience oneness is to forgive everything over and over and over and over and over, and to let go of the judgments, to let go of the meaning of what we think everything is for, who people are. I joked about in the first podcast that we were watching a movie and my wife and I were analyzing it as if all the characters were real and like, why'd they do this? And I bet you when they were younger, they had this, really bad thing happen to them. And then their parents did this. And now as adults, they're this. And it's like, it was a movie. Like, why are we acting like we know all these things? All that movie was is just designed to entertain us. And I feel like this world in so many ways it's all a distraction preventing us from our truth. And as we start paying attention to the distractions and changing our perceptions of them and forgiving them, then we allow the truth to come in, to be revealed. And what we think we're seeing changes, which then the results, the pictures, the movie all changes with it. It's very cool. And you start to be able to understand more of like reality, of truth, of what love is. So moving on. I feel like for me, reading has been, I think a lot of people, it's really good. The more often you can get truth ideas in your mind, read them, listen to them like you are right now, study them, practice them. Of Course in Miracles is all about the practice. It's not just a book, it's a practice that you then apply that in your everyday life, and you start letting go of and detaching from the expectations, the results, the goals, what you think needs to happen in order to be happy. And so much wonderful events, thoughts, feelings can come into that space. And when you read, your mind is constantly focusing on that idea, right? So, tons of books out there. Another way that I'm recommending is reading. So, real quick, the recap has been, I recommend A Course in Miracles. I recommend meditation, and Joe Dispenza's one, but there's so many good things out there. And then also the method that you can use is forgiveness, as taught by A Course in Miracles. And one of my last things that I do all the time is music. I feel like music can, like certain songs, can just instantly bring you back to like remembering. And when I say remembering, it's just like in that moment, you're just like, yes, oh my gosh, you just feel really good. And when you feel really good, you're on the right track towards your experiencing oneness, possibly even experiencing oneness in that moment. And I don't like to get into degrees, and like I've said before, like these words can seem really limiting. Yet music has a way to like take you to another place and remember joy, and remember the present moment. Remember like your connection with other people. Like so often music like just brings the feelings of like unconditional love. And so that's what I recommend, is start learning the ideas of oneness, what it looks like to practice that. And then as often as you can to participate in actions that give you true peace of mind in that moment. And you will seek that and want that more and more. And when you aren't in that state, you'll realize that. And I'm like, what can get me into that state? What moves me down the path towards reality rather than this distraction of the illusions of this world? So that's a tough topic. I had some trepidation to go through this with you. I didn't, start the 1 minute again for many decades because I was like, I'm not ready. Nobody's going to care. I need more time to understand this so I can better explain it. And I've been guided to get over that hurdle, that misbelief, that inaccuracy, that illusion that is not truthful. I am where I am. I own it. I'm sharing and doing, participating, experience, being this journey with you. So if you haven't looked at our 1 minute website, I invite you to do so. If you haven't subscribed to this, I would love for you to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast, and have a lot of cool things planned for you in the future. And I will see you on the next video and the next, or listen to me on the next podcast. So much love, my friends. Had fun today sharing these thoughts, these views, these remembrances. Talk to you soon. Bye.